Howdy YouTube pards. This is Jack Spade here, coming to you from High Noon Leatherworks, where we're going to show you step by step how to create leather goods from patterns all the way to the finished product. Stay tuned. Howdy YouTube pards. Welcome to episode 2 of making an 1800s double loop holster. And this one's for a 45 Colt, 5.5 inch barrel. You saw the first episode. If you haven't, go back and take a look at it. We made our pattern. This time we'll be cutting out the leather. So stay tuned. Alright, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to get our leather. This is a full side cowhide leather from Tandy. Ordered it online. I've had pretty good luck with ordering online and getting good quality leather from them. I've ordered some other stuff directly through Amazon, some other Amazon suppliers directly from them. And I haven't been super happy with the quality of the leather. But Tandy, they've always come through for me every time I've ever ordered from them. So I've got a full side here. I'm going to go ahead and cut out a piece, use my pattern. First thing I'll do is I'll make sure that I have a big enough piece. I'll lay my pattern on it, and then I'll get a pretty close idea to where I want my holster to be, and I won't get too far away from the edges because I want to save as much leather as I can. But then I also have to be careful with any bug scars or any type of blemish on the leather. I did have a customer that ordered a holster that wanted the brand that was, I had an actual brand that was on the leather, and they wanted the brand on there. So, you know, it's a personal preference, whatever you want. So let's go ahead and get ready to cut this out. First thing I'll do is I'll lay it out. It helps if you get it on a real nice flat surface. This isn't a very big surface. A lot of times I'll just lay it on a nice flat floor. Find the area that you want to cut your pattern out of. And again, you need to make sure that you have your pattern the right side up, whether you're making a left hand or a right hand holster. And make sure that you have the outside, like this one's a right-handed holster, make sure that you have the outside of the holster on the smooth part of your leather, because that's what you're going to want on the outside of your holster. So what I'll do is I'll get close, and then I'll just mark it. I like to use a pen. And again, I'm not actually tracing the pattern yet. I just want to cut this down to the size that I can actually work with it easier on my workbench, my surface here. Take my utility knife. And then I'll take the rest of my side, roll it up, and put it away. I like to store mine standing up, so I keep the box it comes in when they ship it. That way I don't have to fight that huge piece of leather, and I could just cut off the chunk that I'm going to use for my pattern or whatever item I'm making, and then now I can sit down and actually work with it. So open our pattern back up. Remember, make sure you get the right side so it's the outside. Lay it back down on our leather. I like to use a pen, and then I'll just trace right around my pattern. If you remember from the first video when we made the pattern, I made it out of poster board. I like to use a heavier board, and it makes it a lot easier to trace when you go to your leather. Much sturdier than, say, a paper sack or something thinner like that. Although those work, you can use them. And then once you have your pattern traced onto your leather, again, I said in the first part when we made the pattern, I like to mark what this is. So I'll mark on my pattern 1800s double loop, .45 Colt. So that gives me a real good idea. If I got somebody else asking for one, I know I can go back in my patterns and grab this, and I won't have to make another pattern. I could just use this one. And I do use a cutting mat, a self-healing cutting mat. You can get these at Walmart, craft stores, Amazon, Hobby Lobby type thing. But I do like those. They don't scar your working surface, your workbench, and they do a really nice job when you're cutting your leather, so you get a good clean cut. Next thing we want to do is go ahead and start cutting out our pattern on our leather, and you can see where I've traced my pattern onto the leather. And now I'll go ahead and cut it out. And I'll just follow that line. And what I like to do is just try to split that line, because we're going to do some beveling, edging. So that ink mark from that pen where we traced that is not going to stay on the edge of the holster. It's going to be removed. And then I'm getting close to the end of my cutting mat, so I'll stop. I'll move to the end, get the end of my leather back on my cutting mat, and then I'll continue cutting. I always want to make sure I keep my leather on my mat. And then I'll turn my leather so I can stay in a comfortable position while I'm cutting. I don't want to turn my body because I want to keep that comfortable position the whole time. So you notice I stay in the same position I'm standing in, and I'll move my leather instead. And I'll continue cutting. Again, I want to stay in a comfortable position. So I'll keep turning my leather. And some people don't like to cut tight corners or around tight circles. So they'll cut it off with a square edge, and then they come back and cut small amounts on that line around that radius. They cut small amounts off until they get that nice circle. I try to just cut around them. Unless they're super sharp corners or round corners, then I don't, because then it makes it too difficult. It's a little jagged. Like here, I'm getting to another corner, so I'll turn my piece again so it's comfortable for me instead of turning my body. So you can see I've already turned this piece of leather several times while cutting out this pattern, and it just makes it so much easier on you because you're putting force down on that knife to cut your pattern out, and that could get hard on your lower back, so you don't want to make it any more difficult on yourself than you have to. So if you can move the leather and not your body, it seems to help. Then you may need to go around it ever so slightly if you didn't cut all the way through it. A lot of times that's on the rounded edges because you don't get as much force on those as you round those corners. So you may need to go around to release the rest of the leather. You can see I've got just a little bit more down here where my last cuts were. Right there in that V where that holster folds over. I'll show you that here in a second where you can see it better. So then there's my leather for my holster, and there's my scrap. A lot of times I'll save this scrap. I can make little straps and things out of it. So I have a barrel here that I save all my scrap in. I'll use it some other time. But you can see now we used our pattern. We cut out our piece of leather for our holster, and let's fold this over and show you that it's starting to take a little shape. So you can see we're starting to take a little shape on our holster here. There's our backing. That'll come around. So that's using our pattern to cut out our leather. Next episode we'll come back and we'll do the edging, and we'll probably do some casing, and we'll see, we'll go from there. So come back again, we'll do episode 3 of the 1800s double loop 45 Colt holster, and we'll see you next time.